Welcome everybody to the Boomer Talk podcast. My name is Jordan. You might know me as One Up Analytics. My co-host is Taylor, aka Somebody's Gun, and our guest today is a procaster, pro Fortnite analyst, content creator, and officially the enemy of Boomer Talk podcast.
We
Fans
fighting?
hate, we're
Oh,
fighting.
is
We're
this how
fighting
it's
today,
working?
baby. Let's
Oh,
go.
I didn't realize. Dang, I would have declined the invite if it was like that.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
The official rival of Boomer Talk podcast. How you doing today, Balla?
I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to take you guys down, I guess. I didn't realize it was like that, but okay. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. It's been I started this morning just freaking shoveling for like 3 hours because it's like the first time that I've gotten to shovel my house for the first time here in Mass. And man, it is rough skis. So a little tired tonight, but we'll have a good time no matter what.
That's why you got to live in New York City, where you just have people shoveling for you. It'll only cost you maybe 10 times more to live here, but it's worth it.
I've lived in New York before, and yeah, I don't know if I'd say worth it. We'll leave it at that.
Well, isn't Boston right up there, like with New York City, is like most expensive cities to live?
Yeah, I mean all of them are pretty expensive these
Yeah.
days, but like yeah, Boston's up there. Boston's up there.
All right, before we get too sidetracked, um,
Yeah, let's start it out with a little interview question. We haven't really done this in the past that often, although the past couple of weeks we've been trying to get to know our guests a little bit better and their background. So let's start it out a little bit. Talk about how you got started in casting and just gaming content in general.
So casting is a little different because I don't think I really set out with a goal of casting Fortnite, but um, basically there was a gap in my mind in terms of like some of the lower tier events and things going on in the community. Specifically, custom matches that were run by Epic, that there was prizing involved, and all the players were streaming them, and it was a big deal back then in the community. It was like happened maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks and something like that. And they'd play 7 games. There'd be win incentive for every game, and it was just to test something for Epic. But in any case, the community was really hyped about it. And it was really fun to watch. So nobody was doing anything, and I decided to do. It was like the first, I think, iteration of like a viewing party that was completely independent of a like official broadcast, and it was more like a casting. I called it a casting hub back then because I did the production. I had the multi-stream back then. Like that was in my mind, the first thing that I saw doing that in Fortnite space. So I filled that gap, and from then, like casting came naturally, I guess, as in the official events. But I always set out to be like officially an analyst rather than a caster. But that's how I got my start there.
all right, cool. And I know we've talked about this in a different setting, but you came from like your inspiration is not within Fortnite, right? Like you're a CS:GO, StarCraft kind of guy.
Yeah. Counter Strike, Quake, StarCraft. Those were all the games that I started out with. But competitively, Counter Strike was my first. Well, I don't know. I guess StarCraft I played competitively first, but I was really, really bad at Brood War, so I wouldn't even really count that. I stopped pretty quickly. But then Counter Strike, I've been playing for shit like almost 20 years now, but
Jeez.
competitively probably 15 years.
Nice.
And yeah, I've always done VOD reviews for myself in Counter Strike. So when I came to Fortnite, it was just like a natural progression. Like I was already doing it, so and then I had already started streaming in Fortnite. I was more like trying to entertain, but that's not really my vibe. So we moved into the analytical educational space where stuff I was already doing for myself to learn and be better anyways.
Did you ever cast for any other games before Fortnite? Is this kind of
Never professionally. More like in CS:GO at the end of my run in CS:GO, I started casting for my friends' playoffs matches and stuff like that in the SCA. I did do some StarCraft 2 casting for my clan or team back then that we played competitive tournaments and stuff with. Is there any other casting? I did CS 1.6 casting way back when, but it was all voice casting. And this is all like every single iteration of my casting is all like 1 or 2 times, right? and it's very low scale. Me doing the entire production, all that stuff. But yeah, I've done a little attempts here and there. So when I first started casting in Fortnite, it was like not brand new to me like a lot of other people.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for that, Balla. We're gonna jump into
Sure.
some news. Now you
Let's
guys
do it.
probably know who our guest was to start with, but now you know him even better. We're gonna hop into some news. The first one is going to be an interesting one. We have, for the first time in a long time, a notable player, Kez
Oh yikes!
XD, gets banned on stream during a tournament for allegedly aimbotting. I think it's pretty clear based on his actions or inactions afterwards that he was guilty. He was doing this. He knew that he was doing something wrong. And I mean, honestly, like, I think this is great because we knew people have been out here doing this kind of stuff, and to have someone with the notoriety of, not that he was a huge player, he's a former FNCS squad winner, so definitely someone of significance. To see him get banned mid tournament, for me, that this is a good thing. I mean, obviously you don't want people cheating, but there are people cheating, so to have that thrown out there, him get banned, it only helps to prove the point. It's kind of like the Aqua ban a few weeks ago. It's like a notable thing, or the suspension, I should say, not the ban. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to comment on it. Otherwise, we'll fly through this news and keep rolling.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree that it's just like good. I mean, get them out of here if they're cheating. Kind of unfortunate that Kez decided to go for that route. I question, what led up to this, and when it started, but I guess I don't really care when it started. All that I know is that he was a squad FNCS winner. Puts that result a little bit under question, of course, when stuff like this happened. I don't think that he was cheating back then, but in any case, it does muddy the waters in that sense. For a squad FNCS winner to then go on and eventually succumb to cheating, for a really good guy too, man. Like I was friends with Kez for a little bit, and all that the impression I got was that he was a pretty nice guy, really driven, and really damn good at the game. So sad to me. This is sad, but it's good. It's good. Get him out of here. Like fuck that shit. We have no space for cheating in the scene, like at all. And if there's ever any evidence or proof that somebody's doing it, we should shun them as hard as possible. I never want to be in the space in Fortnite where we have, actually we already are in the space with Jarvis, for example, but like I never want to be there where somebody cheats and they don't get shunned. In fact, they get celebrated, which we've seen many times in other games. So far, at least in the competitive space, it's never been like that. The punishment has suited the crime, I guess, in a sense, which is really good. So this is another step in the right direction that shows that the anti-cheat is actually working, which a lot of people are, trying to question and put all sorts of doubts in people's minds for no reason. But yeah.
All right, cool. Next piece, performance mode. Don't know if you've gotten a chance to check it out, either of you. I'm a huge fan of this. I have a pretty solid PC, and I still prefer now to play the game on performance mode. The only downside to me is honestly you can't see Storm. Like, you can't tell if you're in the storm, especially come late game when you're trying to go through builds, and then you can't really see loot from a distance. Otherwise, there's some huge advantages. The game feels a ton smoother to me when I'm playing. And this is awesome, right? Because in my opinion, they took out stretch res because they didn't like how it looked on stream and the way the game was being portrayed in a different perspective. Maybe that's not how it is. That's how I believe it is. And now we have a downgraded view of the game and strictly for performance. And I think we'll start to see more people move that way.
Do we have any numbers on like how much better PC performs on performance mode? Has anybody done that?
Someone did FPS and showed
Yeah,
that on a stacked PC, you'll run better FPS on DX12 than you will performance mode. It's better than DX11. But again, this is on a top tier PC. from what I saw. So I don't know we have significant data.
I've seen some benchmarks that have it as worse than DX11. I've seen some benchmarks that have it as better. Like, that's the thing. Like, it really depends on your system for a lot of things like this. And yeah, I don't know specifically numbers wise, but what I know for sure is that players are feeling um, better performance wise with this on. Right, they're feeling better. That usually does indicate that overall, in the grand scheme of things, it is better. But yeah, you're right. There's a little bugs. I just find it funny that, they did take out stretch res because, like, they didn't like how it looked and stuff like that. When this looks like ass, like, it looks really bad.
It looks like mobile,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks really bad, and that's fine. I love to play my games that look like ass. Like, I love it. That's how I play all of my games forever. Like, I played 1.6 on 640 by 480 res. Like, I'm down. Like, let's go. It just sucks that they took away the way that we liked to get the performance boosts in any case, and we still don't have that option when we are doing stuff like this. And they're also giving this option to consoles, which forever have been plagued by only being able to play all ultra, all epic settings from the get-go. Only 60 FPS, stuff like that. And the reason for that is, I think, like you said, right? They don't want their game to be plagued by, or they don't want the game to be viewed as looking bad, when in reality, yeah, sure, if they max out all their settings, it looks good. But the thing that game devs don't get these days is that, yeah, sure, well, these nice pictures might draw people in. Nobody plays like that. Ever. Like, almost, like, ever. In most cases. At least the ones where people are grinding, for the most part, a lot. Of course, the people who don't know aren't going to play low settings, but so maybe the average people are playing on high settings. But in any case, like, I think the graphics demographic is probably bigger than I think, but probably smaller than they think.
Yeah, you're not playing this game for graphical performance. Like, if you're playing competitively, and that's what this show is about, you're there to get the best possible performance out of your PC in end game as you possibly can. And it seems like performance mode is going to give that to some people. Like you said, I've seen varying tweets or threads about this is really not going to work for some people, and that's fine. Figure it out. Like, everyone has those options. But you touched on another thing, so we're going to jump to that. Console, Xbox and PlayStation have now both been boosted to 120 FPS. They are now fairly comparable to a decent PC, at least performance within game. And I know I'm going to let you speak on this, Jordan. You've talked about this a lot, and you think that this is going to be the end of console-only tournaments.
Yeah, I'm not going to say console-only tournaments, because we might still have, what's the cup that they just announced to come out for PS4?
I want to call it the Celebration Cup, but I feel like that was the one last year.
No, I think it is the Celebration Cup.
Oh, it might be the same thing then.
I'll look it up.
Anyway, yeah, I think we'll probably still have those, because
Generations Cup.
I'm sure like Sony and Microsoft will have deals with Epic, and they'll run those like little tournaments. But my theory all along was that once next gen comes out and they're able to get to 120 frames, that they'll combine the FNCS prize pools for console and PC. I don't know. Maybe we won't see that. I guess we'll see. But I
think it's a little too early to say that, just because we don't actually know how this is performing on the grand scheme of things, and I don't know if we will for a long time, until we see the Reddit users and people like that complain about performance and whatever. I don't think that this is going to make them all of a sudden be able to run an endgame in comparison to a PC, right? Like, sure, they might be able to run 120 FPS, but are they actually going to get there? Like, there's huge concerns going around for me that that's not even possible still for them. Like, I don't think the hardware is good enough, right?
I personally don't know. So, I guess we'll leave it at a wait and see. And the last thing, there's two things. One, Jock, congrats to him, man. Like, one of the best players that we've seen over the past year or two, probably year and a half, is when he really stood out. One up, I know you have some solid stats about, he was literally the beginning of this year, like, the best player that we've seen. And he signed to G2 Esports, which is no joke of an organization. So now him and Coop are two players from NA East that are on that organization, which we'll talk about later, but I think is continuing to show the investment from organizations. Jordan, I'll let you speak.
Yeah, I think. Hold on, let me find this. When was this? This was back in May, late May of this year. Jock had the longest active top 100 Cash Cup placement streak, which was 16 straight Cash Cups, which is pretty insane. I have not been tracking it since then, but yeah, at the time that was pretty absurd.
Yeah, just a ridiculous player. Like he really is. This is really nice, to be honest, too. Not just because Jack is a good player, he deserves to be signed, but G2 is getting even more involved in Fortnite. And I believe helmed by Cookie from former Atlantis and manager of Lecce and stuff like that. Lecce's also on G2. And they're actually involved, man. G2 is one of the most socially active orgs in all of their fields. There's other orgs who are obviously very involved, but not to the scale that G2 is in all of their games. Like, no matter what, they're supporting every single signed person that they have on there. And I think that'll continue with the signing of Jack because he's damn good and he's going to win games. And that's also moments that G2 can use. I still don't quite see where the future is going for G2 and orgs in general in Fortnite. But Jack is a really good player. He's starting to stream pretty consistently too. This is a good signing all around. And we have not yet seen G2 sign somebody where everybody's like, what? Like, wow, like, what's going on here? Like, who is this player? Like, why? Like, maybe we know him, but why? He doesn't play comp. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't make content. Like, we've seen that many times, and so far G2 hasn't made that mistake, which is good.
Yeah, we talked about that with Levin a couple weeks ago about how there's some orgs that just come in and are like, oh, let me sign this player, and everyone's like, the fuck, like, why'd you sign that guy? Like, there's so many better options out there.
Yeah.
So clearly there's someone doing their homework, understanding what's going on. And last piece of news, not going to let you guys speak on this because we got topics to get to, but Fortnite competitive integrity update. I know we talked about Kez getting banned. Boom, some other clarifications. You'll get banned for stream sniping. You'll get suspended or banned for using macros. Eligibility, if you want to report someone, they have a link for you. And, you probably shouldn't be selling skins or promoting the selling of skins or wagering online. Like, that's in TOS. Don't do that. Cool. And also make sure your name is reasonable and can actually be put on a broadcast because that is also actionable against you. So don't do that shit. So, cool. Lots of blabbering.
Sorry, did they actually say no wagering in this post?
Not in this post, no. But it is technically against TOS, which they say don't do anything against TOS.
Technically, macros in this post are bannable too, but we haven't seen anybody be banned for them. So, like...
yes. Hey, we'll see, man. One thing at a time. They're doing the right things, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Now let's go into our topics here. We got the first one that we will be discussing is your perfect FNCS format. So we know it's going to be trios for next year, so you don't get to pick the game mode, but we get to talk about point structure. We get to talk about qualifications, weeks, how the playoffs or the grand finals and heats work. So if either of you guys want to go first, that's up to you. If not, I'll take it. I'll throw it out to you guys.
Yeah. I've written basically some of the ideas I have for ideal formats on ballatw.com, my blog post. That was my first post, actually. And I think the big thing for me is making serious points mean something to everybody, to players, who maybe are on the back end, but also the top end players, because I think that's an easy way to incentivize people to play their seriousness the entire time and stop this griefing week after week type of thing, because that's going to be an issue in trios 100%. Again, it's interesting, but it is an issue, right? I do love to see the Doom's Domain battle, but it is an issue that's the only thing that we get to focus on for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever FNCS might be, right? So I think we need to try to solve that, and I think series points, making them mean something, is a good way to do that. Making placements week to week mean something is a good way to do that. I think there's a big issue right now where this final stage in the qualifier right now is equivalent to a grand finals, right?
Yeah.
Where basically we're watching week 1 and it could be the grand finals for all we care. And it's literally the same. There was 2 days. There's 2 days in grand finals. It really sucks because it just devalues it week to week. And basically we need to flip the curve of interest, right? Right now, interest, week 1, it's like, woo! And then week 2, it's like, oh, shit. And then week 3, it's like, oh, nobody gives a crap. And then finals comes back up. Of course it does. But week 3 should be the most meaningful, right? The last game of the season is the most meaningful in the NBA playoffs. It's the most meaningful in LCS. It's the most meaningful in any CSGO event. So that should be revamped a little bit. Of course, there's never going to be everybody going to be on the highest of stakes possible in the final week, but we should have something. This final week of FNCS quals is always a stretch for me looking for stories. It's always like, oh my goodness, this guy, I think that he has enough series points to qual, but if he doesn't know, and if they don't know for sure, he has to get top 8 this time around. Like, it's the biggest stretch. And it does happen where there is an awesome stakes battle that you're all watching, but it's so hard to actually find those because series points don't mean anything. I don't know where to go to look at who hasn't qual. Like, obviously I do because I do this for a living, but like, it's so hard, and to translate that to an average viewer is impossible. Almost, it's actually almost impossible. So that needs to change. And I think the grand finals format still has an issue with the winning moment. I still think that's missing. No matter how hard a caster tries to make the winning moment something really good, I think the format just inherently is not doing enough to incentivize or to make a good winning moment.
Yeah, I think we especially saw that this past FNCS where essentially teams put themselves ahead so far on day 1 that was just holding their lead day 2, and day 2 was not as exciting as it could have been, where it was like 2 teams battling back and forth.
Day 2, man. Don't attack my day 2. My day 2 was nice though. My day 2 was nice though.
I ain't saying that the day 2 is the problem. I'm saying that in NA and EU, we saw teams take a pretty hefty lead in day 1, and then day 2 was kind of like, all right, can they hold it? And sure enough, they held it. It got a little close at the end, but that wasn't the excitement that I'm sure you're talking about, right? And for me personally, I think it comes down to are we going to do series points or are we going to do weekly quals? Because I think doing both of them kind of just like you just said, trying to portray that to a viewer as to, okay, these top 5 people matter, but then also the top 10,000 matter. But, every increment is going to change however that is. And personally, I'd be cool with the top team, literally the top team per week automatically qualifies. They don't have to play in heats. They automatically qual to the grand finals, right? If you win a week, you should be able to move straight to the grand finals. You shouldn't have to play heats. And then you have the series points.
I propose top 5 in series points go straight to grand finals. That's something I proposed in that blog post. But similar stuff to what you're talking about, basically.
Yeah. And then you take the series points, and those are the people that play heats that get to battle it out. Because I do like the heat format, and the wild card game I think was one of the most exciting things, and honestly could have been the most exciting part of FNCS this past weekend. Jordan, go ahead. Oh yes.
Yeah. No, I also think like beyond the structure, part of what Balla was talking about, part of the problem is it's just like the promotion of series points. There's no like consistent like leaderboard you can look at, like you said, and
it's deep in the rules, bro. Like
when you look at sports at the end of the season is always more watched, more well attended, more hyped for traditional sports than or like the middle of the season, the beginning of the season, because you know which teams are a game out of the playoffs, which team is holding that wild card spot for right now, and what they need to do to either qualify or drop out of the playoffs or whatever. So the ability to know what's going on and like which players need to win which weeks, how well they need to place each week, just basic communication and promotion of that would make it a lot better, a lot easier to follow, and just helpful for casters too with following stories across the season. Because I don't feel like that's really portrayed very well right now.
Yeah. And to be clear, it's not all just about, like, when I talk about the viewing experience, it's not just all about what a broadcast can do too. It's what, your average Benji Fisher viewer is doing, who has no clue that there's a broadcast, or has no desire to watch the broadcast because watching Benji's better. It's hard for them. It's impossible for them almost to know what the hell's going on a grand scale, which shouldn't be the case. You should be trying to, because that's what's going to pull people in. If the person watching Benji has no clue of the stakes and they're just watching, they have no clue whether he's doing well or not, or what it means to him, then they're going to come back next week and be like, oh, okay, Benji's still the best player in the world. Not that he's not, but they never get these changes. They never get sucked into the grand picture. And what happens now for that viewer when Benji's gone? They're gone too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like these are the types of things that we really do need as a to have the stakes as a structured system. But yeah, so series points being an issue is a thing. I still think the open to semis to finals funnels are awful. Well, not awful. They're better than they were before. Now that we have 3 stages rather than 2, but like this top, what was it this season? It was top 1,000 to top 33.
Yeah, I believe.
Is that what it was? Yeah, that was just rough, man. That was definitely rough. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to deal with this Sunday final situation, where, we do want to get down to customs, right? We do want to get down to customs, but
so
how do we do it without making it the exact same thing as heats?
I want to ask you, because Macwood tweeted out that there shouldn't be customs until grand finals, and I wasn't necessarily like a fan of that, but
what do you mean necessarily? Come on, speak with your kill. Come on, don't hide behind anything.
All right, well,
dumb,
so like
man.
I personally don't believe that you should be able to straight qualify for a grand finals or heats without playing against the best players, right? Like if you're not in the best lobbies, it's ridiculous. That doesn't make sense that you now get to go play against the best players without beating the best players. But at the same time, drop spots determine way too much in this game, and I know there's stuff you could do about that, right? Like that's just the way the game is. But say, okay, the top 1 and 2 trio land at the same drop spot. They're not going to be the top 1 and 2 trio within that week. And it's simply because they're landing next to each other. Obviously, there's stuff you can do about that. But at the end of the day, like, I don't necessarily think we can get that grand finals hype if we're seeing this week after week, right? Because like you said earlier, Ballatw, the same people that are playing in the finals of a week are playing in the grand finals of a heat for the most part. I mean, we may have a couple of teams switch out, and then the drop spots are worked out by then, at least in certain regions. It's not everywhere. I'm torn on this one. I really feel like we should have everyone play against each other in order to qualify. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think that is the most competitive way to play Fortnite, because it is so drop spot. Like, it matters so much as to who's dropping at your spot or who's not dropping at your spot, that it really becomes a problem to me. And, these are good things that we get to talk about, right? Like, this is more in-depth shit at the end of the day that could matter. I don't know. I'll stop talking and let you guys have the floor.
Look, there's a legitimate issue that people have with drop spots. The issue to me will work itself out given time. The problem is we're not giving it enough time, right? We hailed the Sunday finals as a great change. Like, this is amazing. And we all wanted it. We all wanted to play customs to qualify into things, especially after World Cup, where we all drained. World Cup had the worst possible selection of players for what it was, right? Because there was a bunch of people who fluke qualified into the World Cup. Like, a bunch of people who fluke qualified in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Because, we were playing top 1,000 to top 6 over multiple weeks. So World Cup did not have the most stacked lobby as it should have. And that's because we didn't play customs before. And the thing is that customs versus matchmaking style, they're not the same game, man. They are absolutely not the same game. So when we play 6 games of it a week, then of course we're going to have drop spot issues. Of course that's going to take the narrative away and focus on drop spots. And of course the pro players are not going to do their research and change and adapt to things that go on throughout the games. That's why the 12-game format with 2 days was actually interesting. We actually saw people start to change things around, start to adjust and adapt over different things. We saw that in ESL a little bit, but we have never really given that idea a big, I don't know, running start or anything like that. It's literally like once a season or multiple times, like a few times a season, whereas the majority of the playtime is you just grinding through opens and semis. So yeah, I think things would change. I think that if you had the same lobby, for example, 2 weekends in a row, you'd see a shit ton of drop spot changes. You'd see Stark Industries contested after, that type of thing, because you have the same exact lobby and people need to figure out how to make this lobby work for them, no matter the circumstances, right? So I think that issue, if given enough time, would work itself out and be more interesting than it is now, even though it's the most interesting thing in the scene. Then I don't know. I just feel like they're 2 different games, and the game we all really, really want to see is customs. We don't want to see people stop bots. We want to see customs. That's what we want. So my thing is we should be trying to figure out how to make this Sunday finals still customs, but with less stakes than heats and grand finals.
And I think
but with
taking
more stakes in the last week, like it's weird. It's hard. This is a hard issue.
So maybe like a gradual increase in the number of people that qual per week. So like you have the top team qual in week 1, top 3 teams qual in week 5, and top 10 teams qual. And I'm just throwing this out there. Don't know if it makes sense. Top 10 teams qual in week 3, and say someone requals, then it goes down to the next one, and all that being said, drop spots matter, but look who won in NA East, right? Like those guys literally walked away from their drop spot and just said, like, I'm going wherever's open on the map, and it doesn't matter how much loot I get, I am better than everyone else in this lobby. And that's essentially what they said and what they did. I don't know. This is a tough conversation, because it's not just like there is a perfect format out there.
Here's the perfect format, and it's not all fleshed out. It's all in my mind, right? But you play 3 weeks of opens or something like that. 3 weeks of opens. You qualify enough people for semis. Maybe we do another stage of matchmaking format. We finally come down to 500 people, right? They all played their shitty matchmaking WQ formats. Late start crap. Like, get this all out of here. After that, we have the final 500, 200, 100 people, whatever, man. I don't care. They play a season, right? And then it goes in the semifinals. We're in playoffs now. Like, damn, okay, some people got dropped out. Some of the early 500 got dropped out, right? Now we have 250. All right, let's whittle them down even more, right? Then we get to grand finals, right? So I think we need to mess with the numbers. We need to mess with the early stage. I really, dude, honestly, the most draining thing ever for not only casting, viewing, everything, it's these open stages, man. And it's splitting the narrative so hard, man. It really is. Like the way that I saw the community get hype about Lecce, Mr. Savage, and Benji dropping, 53 kills or something like that. And you watch the game and it's like, okay, cool. Like, sure, they're stomping bots, and that's fun to watch sometimes. But bro, like, how is that the most hyped, talked about moment in all of that week. In all of that week. How is that? When we've seen it happen so many times, and they're literally shooting people who can't even hold a wall. They don't even know how to reverse stare, bro. Like they're sitting there like their heads are cut off and they have no clue because literally it's people who are logging on for the first time with their friends and being like, let's have a fun weekend and open stages. They literally they've never even gone through an edit course. And and people are getting excited about that because we watch it every single time. And by the grand finals, by the final stage, I'm like, dude, I'm done. Like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Like, that's how I feel. So let's cut that down a little bit. You know?
I like that idea of a couple weeks of opens, a couple weeks of semis maybe, and then a few weeks of finals. Because you got like that. You still have the ability for anybody to come up, qualify if they work their ass off. But at the same time, you got like a little mini league at the end, which is something that Fortnite is definitely missing right now, where you could just focus on these are like the top guys for a few weeks. You follow their stories because there are fewer people to focus on, and they're also playing against each other over and over and adapting around each other, which is really cool. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
And Reese says the invitational format was similar to that in chat right now.
Yeah.
And it was. Yeah. But again, remember how the invitational was played. Matchmaking format, matchmaking format, matchmaking format, matchmaking format. Grand finals. Ooh, oh, actually, reboot rounds. What the hell is that? Oh, it's a matchmaking format again. Grand finals. Finally, we get to customs. You know? So, like, question marks all around, man, because I don't think that the solo invitational lobby, it was better because we started from a smaller pool, but I still don't think that that was the best we could do. I don't think that was the best players in all of their respective regions. Well, maybe it was the best players at the matchmaking stage at the current point, but there were so many of them that just don't know how to play customs. Man, the amount of times I see a team qualify for a Sunday finals, for example, and literally not know the surge thresholds is mind-boggling, bro. It's mind-boggling. It's like, how is this happening? Because it's a different game. It's actually legitimately a different game.
Yeah, 100%. Like Storm Surge literally makes you play a different game. And as much as I would love that not to be a factor, I don't think that's ever leaving.
Even without Surge, it would without Surge, it's a different game.
I know, but you get this piece of the game that can damage you and take you out of the game that you may have not run into before. And anyway, all right, cool. So we somewhat have weeks figured out, right? There's a lot more to this. There's more discussion.
Wait, we didn't even talk about how many weeks? I mean, maybe a little bit.
The cool thing about having more weeks that are like kind of easier to get through, like the opens weeks, for example, is that isolates you against the like stuff that Epic wants to do. You know, POI changes, like an open week kind of solves that a little bit. Like it gives them more versatility, more flexibility with the scheduling, which I think would help them drastically because I feel like we've lost weeks. Where do we start in Trios FNCS? How many weeks did we had? We had 5, right? 5 in the grand finals.
Wasn't it 3?
No. Season X.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
It was 5. I'm pretty sure it was 5, and then we got to 4 in squads, and then we did 4. No,
we did 4 for a while,
and then we did 2 in solos, and then we did 3 in trios.
Well, solos wasn't that like it was like 4 qualifiers, but it was over 2 weeks.
Yeah, but it was 2 weeks. Like, let's be serious here.
It was 2 weekends.
Yeah. Like we're going back, and that's because in my mind that they've suffered so much from community outcry at stuff that they wanted to do in the games, right? Mm-hmm. In Season X, it was the POIs changing consistently, the rift zones, right? And they want to isolate the competitive scene against that because, rightly so, we've been screwed in the past because of stuff that they've implemented. Tilted Towers gone for a weekend. Like, oh my God. Like, stuff like that has happened all the time. And sure, that's Fortnite at this stage. But they have isolated the competitive scene from it significantly. I think the one thing that we had was Coral Castle coming out in the middle of solos. But like, okay, cool. We got a new POI in a spot that nobody used anyway. So like, the FNCS solos was literally so far away from the water receding and stuff like that and all of that yeah, they're thinking about that significantly. So I think that adding this lower stakes portion would help them, where they could start a lot earlier and people would not be as mad when they add things in the game, when they remove things in the game.
Yeah, that's a good point, because now we're kind of forced to play FNCS at the end of the season. Like, they do whatever they want throughout the end, throughout the season, and then once they're done, like, all right, cool, we'll play FNCS, and then they do their event, because we know that's how Epic wants to run things, right? And I don't blame them. Like, do whatever you want that makes you money.
That's Fortnite.
Yeah,
you know
that. We love the game partially because of the constant content and updates and stuff. I don't know if that's fully what I mean, but I just said it anyway.
Well, look, the thing is, there's truth to that. Sure, you, me, we all might have complained about the fact that there's a big volcano in Wailing Woods now, right? Right before Yasuo Katowice. We might have complained about it, all sorts of things. Boombox being added the day before WSOE, all these things. Sure, we might have complained about them in the past, and that's for good reason. It's comp. We want competitive integrity, but at the same time, how many pros do I see being like, man, there's not enough changes in the game anymore, man. There's not enough changes. Like, how many people I see saying that? And I'm like, but this is what you asked for. So there is some truth to that. We freaking love the changes, but we just don't necessarily always like their timing.
Yeah. All right.
We just like to complain about everything. That's basically what it is. We complain forever about no consistency with like the game mode, and then they said trios all 2021. People are like, "Where's duos?" We
are a fickle community, man. We are a fickle community, and specifically, it's not even a case of like, oh, but that was this part of the community. No, it's the entire community had this opinion, and all of a sudden the opinion is gone as soon as they get what they want. Like, it's stupid. It's actually dumb, but. We have a young community, so that's what it is. We have a fickle community, and Epic has clearly understood that, and they'll predict that too. But yeah, I did. You know how mad I am? The fact that people are complaining that it's consistent trios, bro. Oh my god, I worked so hard for that shit.
That is the best competitive update that I have ever seen. Like, the fact that we get to play a single game mode. I know we're going on a tangent here, but that is beauty to me, that we get to see Fortnite at the next level, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Especially the fact that it's not solos.
All right, cool. So, point structure. We haven't talked about point structure or the finals weekend. So there's opportunities there. Not going to drag us on too long because we've already been live for about 45 minutes. I'm a big believer.
Man. I'm having fun. We can keep going.
All right, cool. I'm a big believer that the point structure should not be the same in every single round. And if we're changing that, because if you kill me in the open round, that is not the same as killing Booga in the grand finals or the final round, right? Like, that just doesn't make sense. I'm a bot. Booga is one of the best players in the world. You shouldn't be rewarded the same for eliminating a player that is terrible versus when you're playing against the best players. So personally, I want to see that variance from round to round where there's more emphasis on an elimination as you go. So placement, okay, cool. Awesome. We could do in trios, I want to say 25 to 30 eliminations equal a win. That's fine with me. I'm cool in about that range. And then I want eliminations that's in opens, right? If you do 30 eliminations in an open, that's equal to a win. That way you can't start late, or you can't just as easily start late, drop a 30 bomb, win a game, and then cool, you've qualified. Then I want eliminations to start counting a little more in semis. So maybe it's 20 eliminations count for a victory royale. And then in the win, 10 to 15, I'd be cool with that many eliminations counting for a victory royale. Because let's be honest, if you're dropping a 15 elim game in a grand finals or a finals match against those players, that is a hell of a lot more significant than doing that in any other round, and a lot more meaningful to your actual game and the tournament than anything else. So personally, that is how I want to see things adapted to. Either you guys have some thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm all for pumping up elims in like the later rounds because it's people aren't gonna start rushing people off spawn and shit like that. Like that in a customs match, it's gonna be a stacker either way, just because people are gonna play conservatively. So I'm all for pumping up elims, maybe giving a little bit of incentive to do that. Opens, I just don't really care that much. Like, whatever the point structure is, like if if you're gonna qual, you're gonna qual. I kind of feel like that. Like, and opens are just not the same level of play anyway. That like, I don't know. It's just like let
Yeah, but
people
what
do.
about for cash cups, for example? What about for 2-stage tournaments and stuff like that?
For cash cups, I don't know. I think my thing also, and I think Balla, we talked about this on Twitter a long time ago, is I am not a fan of
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we?
point-based matchmaking in an open round.
Yeah.
I I really just I would prefer if we're gonna have a 2-round tournament. If it's 1 round, that's a different story. But if we're gonna have a 2-round tournament, I'd rather have everything be as consistent as possible through that first round, even if it's not going to be stackers, even if it's going to be a W key type first round, and just let those guys get into the second round, and then they'll battle it out against the top players in that second round or third round.
I think for a 2-stage tournament, I agree.
Yeah,
But
that's
I still don't agree. Because the thing is that like we don't have enough of a sample size in the 3 hours or 2 hours that they have where you are getting consistent games. Right? Maybe you've seen more because obviously you looked at the data, but like I just feel like there's a problem in opens, and I've experienced this myself where some days I get a really easy ride. Some days I get a freaking hard one, man. Some days it's like, dude, I cannot catch a break. I'm dying to the best pros left and right, you know?
Yeah, I've been there.
And obviously, points-based matchmaking is in there, but there's still variance no matter what, just because the way that the game queues, right? It's not like you're getting into specifically handcrafted lobbies every single time. No, it's whatever's available at the same time. So no matter what, I think there's always going to be variance that is a little unfortunate. I'd prefer to see trend towards stack lobbies no matter what, because once again, we're opening this third game of Fortnite, which is way closer to a pub than anything we've ever like. Sure, we might joke and say open stages are pubs sometimes, but in reality, if you took away points based matchmaking, you would get showdown lobbies. You get 6 people, 4 zone type shit. Nobody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to play that. Like ever. Like nobody ever wants to play that or watch that because that's not what we've pushed for or and been towards. So that's why I don't agree with that idea. Sure, maybe it may be a little bit more fair, but might have a little less variance. But removing it just rubs me the wrong way because we're gonna get away from the stackers. On the points, I agree with you, Taylor. I think that'd be a really really good solution because it does address the late starts. It does address stack games. It does address people just W king through things, but I don't think it solves it completely. But the times we've seen it, Nikkei 30 Cup, Mongrel Cup, all Mr. Savage Cup, all sorts of other places we've seen it. It's been beautiful. Like less incentive on elims. Dude, we've seen this in open scrims. Like we've known this forever. Like less incentives on elims in early stages so that those games are at least stacked. At least people are having fun playing them. And then we increase the value because it's harder and it gets more close to what we expect as time goes on. The thing is that like I don't know. It really open stages suck. I can't get over that. I think that no matter what the format is, it's always going to be bleh to me, right? It's like watching freaking LeBron James shit on some high schoolers.
Yeah.
Like, why am I watching this?
Well, and for like you as, I'm sure we're all in the same boat as kind of like a purist. Like we understand what Fortnite
Yes.
is, and we like the way the game is played at a high level.
we understand what competitive Fortnite is and our image of it, but yeah, I think there is some like there's an idea to, you know, incentivize people to play because they get a chance of going up against Mongrel. They get the chance to do stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a driving force in Fortnite, and it's always been in the history books. So, yeah, I kind of understand at the same time, but get it out of here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that open stage is ever leaving us.
No.
Nope. Well, we could talk about heats, but we're also almost about on an hour now, so I'm going to push us to this next topic because honestly, I don't think heats are really the big issue.
Can we grand finals real quick?
All right, fire away. We're doing it.
Why haven't
We're
we done
in
match point in any tournaments yet? Why haven't we done the match point format in any tournament yet?
match
You know what I'm
point?
talking about? Yeah. Okay.
Like you have to win a game in order to.
Yes, you
Okay.
get you. There's a threshold you have to reach, and then to win the tournament, you have to win a game after reaching that threshold. Why haven't we done that yet? It's the Apex format. Come on, guys. You guys are this unfamiliar? Come on, man. How are we talking about formats like this? Uber talk? Like, what is this shit? Come on, man.
Apex Legends is a new game. That's beyond our time.
Okay. So the idea is to make this winning moment in a battle royale matter, right? It's not just we play 6 games, and then whoever's at the top of the standings, whether they died in game 6, off spawn or not, wins the tournament, right? There has been moments where we get to game 6, the dude's dead. And it's like, okay, here's the points that these people need to overtake. And you have no clue what the hell's happening in the final moments. You get down, casters are on, they're like, man, what a crazy game. Mars OW took it. But I have no clue what happened, man. We sit there for like 30 seconds. They're like, all right, leaderboard's ready. And then we look at the leaderboard, and we have this just massive amount of information to take in. It's like, okay, Booga won. But this guy got second, this guy got third, this guy got fourth. You know what I'm saying? So like the solution to that, at least what Apex did, is to implement this match point format. You play 6 games or whatever, 7 games, 8 games, whatever, and you have a threshold to reach. Once you reach that threshold of, say, 100 points, arbitrarily, no clue what the point format is, but we get to that point, and if you win the game after that, you win the tournament. Or you reach a secondary threshold, which would also win you the tournament. So what happens is you get to game 7, Booga's over the threshold, Stretch is over the threshold. All these people are over the threshold, and then they got to win a game to win. And we could also have a cap on matches too. That's like after 12 matches, whoever's at the top wins. I think I fuck with that shit. That is so good. To me, absolutely so good, especially in trios.
So
because victory royales don't mean anything, man. They don't.
Well, I think that's more in the point structure than anything else. If you rewarded a Vic Royale with more points, then it would properly account for winning a game. But at the same time, I don't think you necessarily have to win a game in order to be the best team in a tournament. Like, I think we've seen that already. Like, you can get second, third, fifth,
but isn't that
fourth.
what the game is about? Isn't the game about winning? Isn't the game about getting to the very end, surviving to the very end? Shouldn't that matter?
Yes.
From just an
I don't know.
perspective, like if the top team is eliminated early on in the last game, and you got a few teams left alive at the end of the game that have no chance of coming in first, like who really cares at that point?
That's the problem.
It's so much more exciting to see. Like this is more like the wild card game is so exciting because that's the winner is the person who goes to the next round. So yeah, I fully agree, Ball. I think that's a great idea. I didn't know about that format before.
That's the real shit. And also, why aren't we kicking people out who are bad in grand finals?
I'm all about that. I saw that happen in practice server. Like, so Jordan, the bottom 1 or 2 teams, let's say after day 1, Like the bottom 1 or 2 teams get knocked out, and they're like, "See ya, you're not in the tournament anymore. You suck too much. Like you're not gonna grief someone on day 2, so you're not playing the rest of these games."
So what happens? You just have like a less full lobby
Yeah.
in the. Okay.
Yeah, I am a big fan of that. I think that could be implemented really well. I don't know that you guys have convinced me on the match, or I guess Balla, that you've convinced me on like the match point thing, because I don't necessarily think you need to win a game to be the best. Like,
but it's not about that. It's not about being the best. It's about making a moment exciting, man. It's about making our sport fun to watch. Like, come on, man. That's what it's about. It's not about winning. You know, trying to prove. Sure, I want the tournament to prove who the best teams are, right? I want that, but I also want to have fun watching. I want there to be build up. I want to be, you know, freaking pulled along and tugged along the entire time. I want the players to have such an intense moment of winning where they're not just sitting at their computers like, let me hold on to the leaderboards are coming. We won! Oh my god, the leaderboard, we won! Like 30 minutes after they freaking played the game. Like, that's so boring. That is so boring. So that's what I'm trying to solve. It's not necessarily, it might not, you know, produce always the best teams or whatever, but I think that's more what Battle Royale is about. I think that's what more of what Fortnite is about, is getting to that final moment, surviving towards the end. And it combines both the best of both worlds in my mind. Well, maybe not the best, because I don't know what the best is, but it does what you want, right? Which is try to prove who's the best, because they have to get over a certain threshold, right?
Right.
It's not like they're freaking bottom feeders all of a sudden winning a game in the very end and be like, "Oh, we won. What the hell?" And everybody's like, "Who the hell are these guys?" It's like there's a certain amount of teams and these guys are really good, and now they got to close out. And the thing that I think people don't understand is if players played in that format, they'd also play different when they got
100%.
past match point. They would drop somewhere else. They'd play more passive in the end game. They wouldn't go for as many impacts because they're not trying to frag out like crazy. It would finally create these moments in the end game that everybody understands what the hell is going on. The players know what the hell is going on. They're not just scratching their heads, just randomly trying to frag as many people as possible and hope that they get enough points to win the tournament. They're not just doing that. Because how many runs have we seen where people are trying to crazy pop off and they actually don't need to? If they just outlasted a little bit more, if they just got to second place, they'd win the tournament. How many times have we seen that? So many. It's like I've seen that shit all the time. And then nobody remembers their crazy run because they died too early after getting 80 elims, and then they lose the tournament anyways. Like, there's these moments that we need, both the players and the viewers, that we need. And I think that format would help significantly. And I think we've got to try it in a practice server tournament, something like that, man. I'm not asking it to be implemented in FNCS, although I am, but because I know it's good. But like, where are the tournaments that are trying that stuff, man? Nobody's doing anything new. None of these third-party tournaments are doing anything new. The practice servers like sitting on their thumbs, like, man, I wonder what format should I use, and then they come up with this, you know.
Damn. All right. You've pretty much convinced me. As long as, so this is gonna be my like exclamation or my asterisk next to I'm all for this. As long as the next, so like you have the point threshold. If you win a game after that, you win the tournament, right? As long as that next gap is not huge to where it's like insurmountable for someone to place second in 8 games and still not win a tournament. Right? Like if someone goes 8 straight games placing second place, God forbid, that sucks. Like, learn how to win a game. But still, like if you're doing that, you should still be able to win. So you've convinced me.
Here's what's gonna happen though. That person's gonna play. That team is gonna play second. They're gonna be at the point threshold after like 3 games, and everybody's all like, "Oh, all they got to do is win a game." Oh, and then this team wins a game. This team wins a game. This team wins another game. This team wins another game. We're like, man, maybe this team isn't as good as we think they are. You know?
Taylor, I think
stuff like Aqua's going to win 2 games in a row before this team ever gets another freaking... Stuff like that will happen. I guarantee you. Yeah. Aqua's team, you know, they come way from behind. They win 2 games in a row, but they're not at match point anyways. So, like, So this team still has a chance, and you just gotta you will literally see in that format, and I think Apex has had it many times, the top 3 teams in the final 3. That will happen because the format asks for it. It asks for it to happen.
All right, I'm in. Zate's
So
half and stretch are the winners, like hands down. If that's the format, they win.
And deservedly so, man.
Yeah.
Like
Go ahead, Jordan.
Level, deservedly so. Go ahead, Jordan.
No, I'm just saying you're being too much of a purist. You're too much about who exactly is the best team in the game.
Yeah, what is wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's fine. That's fine. But okay, first of all, we already have so much variability in this game that like most, I don't even know if most of the time that the first place team is the best team. But look at any other sport. Like, what is the most exciting playoff or tournament? Like college basketball, football. They have 1 game elimination. If you lose, you're out, and there's a ton of variability in that, and almost every time you're not going to have the best team winning that tournament, but it's exciting as hell.
Yeah, I got you. Hey, I said I'm for it. You guys have convinced me that I am now a fan. Not fully though. Not fully. All right. Do we want to move on? I think we've gone over about everything that we could for. No, we haven't. But we've talked quite a bit about the format, and we should be moving on.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. So you want me to introduce the last topic?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what do we got here? All right, so 2021, it's going to be all trios. We've already said this. Do you guys think that set game mode for the entire year is going to make org investment more likely? Just in players in general, because there's consistency, they know what's going on. In addition to, do you think there's going to be full org trios? Is org going to sign a full trio as a compact deal? What am I trying to say? Combined deal. And yeah, what do you guys think about that? Taylor?
Personally, one, it just shows longevity, right? Like if we know that there's going to be trios all of 2021, we know that there's going to be competitive Fortnite all of 2021, which we could not have said going into any other year before this one, right? You're giving me a look, but you couldn't confidently tell me that you didn't know.
I could confidently tell you that there was going to be comp all year. Of course I could.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you that there'd be FNCS. I couldn't tell you that'd be good. But come on, after World Cup, you think they're just going to drop after FNCS multiple times, after DreamHack lands that clearly were tests for future stuff? You think they're just going to drop it? Absolutely not. There's no way that you should have. I get that we wanted to push them towards, announcing shit, and I was all for that back then, but of course we knew there was going to be comp all year.
But from an organization's perspective, is it secure enough to know that you're going to have competitive Fortnite for a full year? No. I think is the way I'm trying to frame this. We may, as someone part of the scene, but as we talked about with the G2 stuff, not all orgs know what the hell's going on in the scene. So, one, to answer does it create more org investment? 100%. 100% we're going to see more orgs diving in because we know that, all right, cool, FNCS is happening all year. We may not get World Cup, but we at least know this is the game mode. It's going to be continuous, and we can count on this. We know that there's a broadcast. The broadcast has been improving over time, and we even see DreamHack, too, which is coinciding with the major FNCS. So you have 2 now, I guess, major, I'm throwing quotes around those, options for competitive Fortnite. So that's the first thing. And then as far as, are we going to see full orgs purchasing a full trio? I don't know. It's going to be harder than you think. And if I'm advising an org, right, I'm going to tell them not to worry about it because that trio is probably not sticking together for the full year. To be honest with you guys, there's probably 5 trios, maybe. there's two trios that I think will stick together throughout the entire next year, and
Name them.
Zayt, Saf, and Stretch is going to be one, and I would go Jock.
I'm hearing some things.
All right, hey, maybe not, but
No, I'm just kidding.
Jock, Acorn, and Slacks I think will also stick together. Bucky, Creo, and Kanata I don't know about because of how well he's been playing with Macwood. But like those are the only two that like off the top of my head as someone who follows the scene that I think could even have the possibility of staying together for a full year. But actually I guess AV, Knight, and Rogue Shark is probably a solid one, and I think that is the most valuable that you will see and or get, because on a broadcast, right? Like when you're showing everyone what your organization is about, people call it the X-Set trio. And tell me another org that gets their trio named on broadcast instead of, oh, it's Zayt, Saf, and Stretch. Okay, no one knows what orgs they're on, and they may not even have their org names in their in-game names, so you get no branding. But I think it's helpful to have a full trio if like you can somehow get them to sign the dotted lines of we're going to stay together for the full year. But at the end of the day, as far as competitive Fortnite goes, I don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think it's possible.
Let's be clear here. I think that orgs don't give a crap if their names are shown on a broadcast right now. I don't think that's super valuable in Fortnite, just because there's so many damn people that are shown already. It's like, yeah, sure, there's a little bit of, what is that called when product placement, I guess, that they get, which already is such a low efficiency promotional tool, but the broadcast doesn't get as many views as normal. Like, I think orgs mostly are looking to create in Fortnite just winning teams because it's easier than other games. Whether that's actually true from the effort or whatever, but it's just easier because you put it's much easier to get into those grand final stages, into the pro level, than it is in any other game, right? But I also don't necessarily know if this trio, the consistency, I think helps, because you sign a player who you know is good at trios, is going to stay good at trios. He's not going to go into FNCS solos and be ass.
Well, you don't know what the meta is going to be. They could absolutely change the loot pool.
Yes, but a team mode player is still going to be pretty dang good, no matter what loot pool it is, no matter what meta it is. And I don't think we're going to be really changing metas, no matter what the loot pool is, for quite some time, right? Sure, we might change the shotguns, we might change the weapons, but at this point, I think everybody's comfortable enough on all different weapons that they could throw at us, any and every case. So yeah, that consistency helps. I don't necessarily know trios is like, oh man, I'm TSM, right? I'm TSM, like, oh, it's trios. Wow, yeah. In fact, I think it's less so because I think the uneducated person investing in Fortnite actually thinks that solos is like, wow, it's so cool. Booga, he won the World Cup, $3 million. That's what the uneducated person thinks. And so I think orgs might actually think that solos would have been more valuable, just because they aren't looking at the scene like we are. We have a different point of view.
Right. Can I stop you real quick?
Go
I think TSM is going to be an interesting example because they just lost two of their top players in Commandment and Kanata. And then to see what they do in this next year is really going to show us the answer to this question.
I can't believe they dropped Commandment, not Kanata. I mean, I think that's obvious, but Commandment, man. Not necessarily dropped, but just didn't come to an agreement with him. He's just a free agent now. We don't know the details at all. That's crazy. How do they let Commandment go?
That's one of the best players.
Are they not still like talking about a deal a little bit?
Potentially. We don't know the details, but yeah, he could resign, I guess. Maybe he's just like, oh, I want to explore my options, but that's so wild to me.
Here's what I'd like to see. If there's anybody who runs an org watching right now, make a contract incentive to like sign a trio and have a contract incentive to stick together for 6 months or whatever it is, so that you got this group of guys. A couple weeks ago, we had on Reno for Become Legends and Lou, and Reno was saying how when they start looking at players, when they sign a player, they start looking at that player and tracking him 6 months before that, and like looking at data about them 6 months before that, and track them the entire way. So now we have the ability to track a trio the entire way, sign them, have a bonus incentive to stay together for, it doesn't have to be the whole year, but the next two seasons or whatever it is. And I don't know, I just feel like that's so much more marketable to have like a full cohesive team. It's easier to like manage them. You could have a single coach that's directing them and stuff. Go ahead.
That gets to my point too about this whole topic, is that in the long run, this is fantastic for orgs no matter what they're doing, because it does stuff like that, right? There is a trio that's long together forever. You could even have a trio that is on an org that doesn't necessarily have to stay together, but when they sign a new player, he comes into that trio, and it's still the XSET trio, right? Like if Rogue Shark got replaced with somebody else, it's still going to be the XSET trio because they signed another player onto that team, right? The team has more organizational control over that team, which is bad for players. Let me be frank about that. Orgs will do that, and that is bad for players because they don't have the freedom to do what they can now. But it is good for the scene, and it is good for orgs overall. It's good for the viewers and the orgs, not necessarily for the players. But overall, this entire trio is consistent, whatever. It is so good because of exactly things like that. It is so good because viewers now associate a team with a trio. If that stuff does come to fruition, I think it will down the line. I just don't think that it's going to be, February comes around, is it still going to be season 5? Season 5
pretty sure
comes around, and we're going to have XSET, we're going to have TSM, we're going to have RG. No, it's not going to be like that. We're going to take a while. I would not expect anything for around 6 months for us to start seeing these orgs sign full trios. I think it's going to take some time, and I think they're going to see and wait and see how this, consistency actually helps. Because at the end of the day, if they start looking at a bunch of trios, and comes into season 5 of NCS, that's when they start looking. They look at one, it's like, oh, these guys have potential. They're going to the moon. And then the next 2 seasons, they like down and tanked, and like everybody's like all over the place. They're gonna be like, maybe it's not such a good idea, because no matter what, there's still gonna be volatility, which is the biggest. That is very hard to deal with as an org in Fortnite.
Yeah, and I even think from an org's perspective, unless you're like one of the top tier like NRG, TSM, Liquids, I don't think it necessarily benefits you to sign a full trio, because you will say you sign someone, let's like Jamper, for example, someone that's going to play with Bugha is going to give you much more visibility and eyeballs on your org than it would be to sign, let's say a full trio of, I don't even know, up and comers, right? So if you get like one player that's playing with one of the top tier, like big brands, that is so much more valuable than any trio you could sign, because playing with Bugha, let's be honest, that's going to be better than having an XSET trio. Unless you do it right. Yeah,
XSET's doing it right.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Is LG doing it right? Is Jamper playing with Bugha? Like, sure, it gives them exposure, but
no.
Who the hell's on LG?
No, LG is a shotgun perspective kind of thing.
No, I know. I'm just using that as a random example because you used it.
Yeah.
So, like, is it actually giving that value? Are there people buying LG jerseys because of Jamper?
Oh, 100%
no, they're probably buying Sun jerseys because of Bugha. So is it as valuable as you think? I'd say probably not. But that is how people think. That is how orgs are thinking. And again, I think that will change as time goes on, because we will start putting more value on winners. We will start putting more value on teams that are consistent. Just 100% facts.
All right, you guys ready to call it a day? We've been going for an hour and 15. It's been a solid episode.
I smell something good upstairs.
Uh-oh.
Could you do quick rapid fire questions before we wrap it up? All right, 10 seconds per each one. Wait, where are they, Taylor?
You sent them. This is your idea, Chief.
Yeah, I know I sent them, but they're somewhere in the chat. All Okay. First one is would you rather win console FNCS
PC.
or get top 3 PC FNCS?
Top 3 PC.
Okay, that's a quick one. Taylor?
PC, like I'm
You
not
could have
playing
said top
second.
50, bro. I don't give a crap.
Yeah, I'm same PC. Like I don't care about console.
All right. Next one is moving forward. If Epic has a smaller amount of money to put towards prize pools, would you rather have a few big prize pool tournaments or a lot more small prize pool tournaments?
Depends how small you're talking, but I think I always err towards a lot of small.
Okay, and that comes because Macwood today tweeted that he thinks the game is boring as hell without any tournaments going on. So
I mean, that's
just
just facts, but
food for thought.
I think it really depends on the structure of that. Like I wouldn't give it just a straight up answer, but I would err towards the side of less tournaments or more tournaments. Sorry.
More tournaments?
Yeah, more tournaments with less prizing.
Okay. Taylor, what do you think about that?
I'm probably opposite. I'd rather like a few majors per year than just like scattering.
Well, see, if you say a few, like if it's 4 majors a year, then yeah, of course I'll go for the majors a year. But if it's 1 tournament, 2 tournaments, then I'm going for the smaller.
1 World Cup versus 3 FNCSs. What are we doing?
3 FNCSs,
Yeah, I'm probably 3 FNCSs too.
especially if it's 1 World Cup over 2 years versus 3 FNCSs a year. Like,
All right.
Last one. This comes from Taylor's tweet earlier today. Do you hold your tack or do you tap fire it?
me, I tap, but I think I might be a bot in that regard. I think I might be a bot.
I honestly didn't know you could hold a tack until today.
Yeah,
And
I
I
knew
feel like
you could, but it took me a long time to figure that out.
mess with my aim too much because like you don't know when the fire exactly is going to come. I mean, you kind of do because you could time it, but like it's just more responsive if you're the one hitting it.
When you get to fire once you're aimed, like if you're tap firing, I was surprised to find out that like an actual pro player holds his tac shotgun. Like that is amazing to me. Leno out west apparently holds his tac shotgun to shoot, and I just personally like that doesn't even come to my mind. Like I'm a tap fire guy.
I mean, optimally, you would want to fire as fast as possible every single time, right? The thing is that just you don't actually have that option that many times. Like how often are you going to take 2 tack shots in a row without doing something else in between or moving or whatever, you know? So.
True.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Balla, so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone in chat. We appreciate you guys. I know it was a longer one. I'm sure you guys enjoyed it. You can definitely check us out. It's down there. YouTube, Boomer Talk, and also Boomer Talk FN on Twitter. Make sure to go follow those two. We'll probably do a Wednesday episode next week because not doing it on Christmas Eve. Like, just not going to happen. But thank you.
All right, Fantasia's on Wednesday too.
yeah.
Exactly the same time. Let's go. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's go. Nah, but thank you, Balla. We appreciate you.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.